11 p.m. A strange BMW in my driveway, my shower running upstairs, someone else's perfume in my foyer, and that was the moment I knew my HOA president had finally crossed a line no sane person would ever cross. I had dragged my luggage up the circular driveway of my inherited colonial mansion in Hawthorne Ridge 2 weeks early from my business trip, tired enough to sleep standing up. All I wanted was a hot shower and 12 hours of peace. Instead, my house glowed like a holiday display. Music floated from my living room, and someone was singing off-key in my master bathroom. The smell hit me before anything else did. Strong floral perfume, the kind that wraps around a person like a fog. The same scent that haunted every HOA meeting and clung to Pamela Kent, our 50-something HOA president, with a voice sharp enough to slice marble. That was when my stomach dropped. Pamela wasn't just bossing people around with citations and threats anymore. She was living in my house, using my shower, eating my food, making herself comfortable like she paid the mortgage. Let me back up. My name is Eric, I'm 47, and 6 months ago I inherited a 4,000-square-foot colonial mansion from my aunt, in a neighborhood so strict they probably measured the grass with rulers. My aunt had lived here 30 years. She baked cookies for new neighbors and kept journals thicker than phone books. When she passed, she left me everything. After my brutal divorce wiped out half my savings, this house was a blessing I didn't see coming. When I first moved in, it smelled like lavender, old books, and polished wood. Every morning, the radiators pinged awake like friendly ghosts. For the first time in years, I felt safe. I felt home. But every paradise has its snake. Mine wore pearl earrings, drove a spotless white BMW, and walked like she owned every property line in town. Pamela Kent. HOA president for 8 years. Real estate agent. Ruler of Hawthorne Ridge. She lived in a small townhouse on the edge of the neighborhood, but you'd think she ran the White House from the way she carried that clipboard. Her first visit came on my second day. I was unpacking boxes when I heard the click of expensive heels on my walkway. She stood there like a magazine cover titled Suburban Dictator Weekly. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said with a smile colder than an empty freezer. "I'm here about your mailbox." My aunt's old black mailbox violated the sacred forest green color palette. It had been there since before I was born, but Pamela didn't care. She handed me a citation like she was delivering a death sentence. That was only the start. Week 2 brought a warning about trash cans being visible past 6 p.m. Week 6, she complained about my teenage son's friends parking on the public street. Week 12, she accused me of running a commercial warehouse because I had 3 Amazon boxes on my porch. Meanwhile, longtime residents broke rules left and right without a single complaint. "She's territorial," my neighbor Linda told me one morning while picking up her newspaper. Linda was a retired nurse with soft eyes and warm hands. New people threaten her little kingdom. Quote, "Before my last business trip to Europe, only Linda and my son knew I'd be gone 3 weeks. Somehow Pamela found out anyway. The night before I left, she showed up again, heels clicking like warning shots. 'You shouldn't leave a house like this unattended,' she said, eyes scanning my foyer like she was taking inventory. I could watch over things." "No thanks," I said. Her smile froze. "We'll see about that." And now, 2 weeks later, her BMW was parked in front of my garage. My porch lights were blazing, my windows glowed. My shower was running. Someone was singing like they owned the place. I slipped through the backyard, reaching under the loose brick by the garden gate for the spare key my aunt had hidden decades ago. The moment I stepped inside, the smell of her perfume wrapped around me. Under it, I could smell takeout, wine, and warm lights that had been left on too long. My granite counters were covered with empty containers. My wine glasses were in the sink, glasses filled with wine from my private cellar. My heart hammered as I pulled out my phone and started recording. Years of cybersecurity work trained me to document everything. I moved silently through my home like a stranger, filming the unfamiliar clothes on my bedroom chair, the makeup scattered across my sink, the medication bottles labeled P. Kent. The shower upstairs kept running. The singing turned into humming. My pulse beat in my ears as I climbed the steps. The hall light cast shadows that felt wrong, violated, stolen. I stopped outside my own bathroom door, steam escaping through the crack. "Pamela," I said. The humming cut off. The water kept running. "Eric!" Her voice cracked like thin ice. "You're not supposed to be home for 2 more weeks." "It's my house," I said. "I come back when I want." 5 minutes later, she stepped out wearing my thick bathrobe, dripping water across my hardwood floors. Her eyes were wide like a kid caught stealing cookies. "I can explain," she said, clutching the robe. "Start with why you're living in my house." Before she could speak, a toilet flushed in the guest bathroom, and that was the moment I realized my nightmare had only just begun. The toilet flushed, and every hair on my arm stood straight up. I turned toward the guest bathroom as the door swung open, and out walked Officer Ray Bolton, full uniform, badge gleaming, radio crackling on his shoulder. Ray lived 2 streets over, married, father of 2, the kind of guy who grilled burgers at block parties, the kind of guy you trusted. Tonight he was standing in my house like he had every right to be there. "Everything okay, Pamela?" Ray asked, resting his hand on his service weapon. Casual, too casual. Like this was a routine call and not a felony in progress. My blood ran cold. "Ray, you do realize you're in my home without permission, right?" He froze. The confidence drained from his face like someone had pulled a plug. "Pamela said you asked her to house sit," Ray muttered, his eyes bouncing between me and the hallway. "Did I give you permission to be here?" I asked. Silence. Heavy, thick silence filled the space between us. Pamela stepped forward, still dripping water on my floor. "Eric, you don't understand. There was a break-in scare in the neighborhood. I was protecting your property, as a community service." I pointed to the half-empty wine bottle on my nightstand. "By drinking my $200 Bordeaux, by sleeping in my bed, by showering in my bathroom, come on." She folded her arms tight around the robe, chin lifting. "I have emergency HOA authority over vacant properties. It's completely legal." I laughed, a bitter sound that echoed through my own hallway. "Show me." She led us straight to my home office, my private space, like she owned the place. She opened a neat folder on my desk and pulled out a document titled Emergency Caretaker Agreement, dated the day after I'd left for Europe. It had my signature on it, except it wasn't mine. I'd spent years analyzing forged contracts for corporate clients. I knew instantly. Wrong pen pressure, wrong spacing, wrong everything. "This is a forgery," I said, holding up my phone, "and I'm recording this entire conversation." Ray's face turned pale. A small vein pulsed in his neck. He suddenly seemed much less like a confident officer and more like a man about to lose everything. "Pamela," Ray whispered, "you said he signed this." "You told me." Pamela shot him a look sharp enough to cut steel. "Don't start." I stepped between them. "Ray, you need to leave my house, right now, before this becomes something you can't undo." He stared at the floor, jaw tight, then stepped around me and walked out without another word. I listened to his hurried footsteps echo down my stairs. The click of the front door closing behind him. Pamela stayed frozen in place, breathing fast, still clutching my robe like a shield. "You can't prove anything," she spat. "You're overreacting." I leaned in just enough for her to feel it. "Pamela, this is breaking and entering, fraud, trespassing, theft, and I've documented every piece of it." Her eyes darted to my phone, then to the door, calculating like a cornered animal. For a moment I thought she might make a run for it. Instead, she straightened her spine and stormed past me, perfume trailing behind her like a warning cloud. "My lawyer will handle this," she snapped. "Your lawyer can explain why your blood pressure meds are on my bathroom counter," I said after her. She flinched. Then she was gone. I barely slept that night. Every sound echoed wrong. Every shadow felt like an intrusion. I kept replaying the image of Ray walking out of my house in uniform. What else had he helped her with? What else had she been doing while living here? At sunrise, I hired a locksmith to replace every lock on the property. The smell of metal shavings and machine oil filled the foyer as the locksmith worked, his old glasses slipping down his nose every few minutes. Every click of his tools felt like reclaiming a piece of my life. By mid-morning, Linda, my warm-hearted neighbor, showed up carrying a casserole dish and a look of pure concern. "Oh, sweetheart," she said before I could even speak, "I was wondering when you'd find out." My pulse jumped. Find out what? She lowered herself into a kitchen chair, her floral print dress brushing the legs. "Pamela told everyone you were renting the place to her, said you needed extra income after the divorce." I rubbed my forehead, heat rising. "She hosted people here?" Linda nodded. "She held the dinner party last Thursday. 8 people, catered. She even opened your wine." My grip on the counter tightened. I looked around, seeing every violation with fresh eyes. "My security system was disabled," I said quietly. "Professionally. Not cut cables. Bypassed." Linda's eyes widened. "Eric, she planned this." She had. Every piece of it. When Linda left, the house fell silent again. Too silent. I walked room by room, inspecting every inch. My garage had new oil stains. My tools were moved. My workbench had marks I didn't make. That's when I saw the envelope taped to my front door. HOA notice. Emergency board meeting tonight. Charges listed. Disturbing the peace. Harassment of board members. Threatening behavior toward community officials. A joke. A twisted one. But the meeting wasn't a joke. Not even close. The community center smelled like industrial cleaner and cheap carpet as I walked in that evening. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. 5 board members sat behind a folding table, papers stacked in front of them like they were running a courtroom instead of a neighborhood. Pamela sat in the center seat, wearing a navy blazer and a smirk. "Eric," she said sweetly, "we've received disturbing reports about your aggressive behavior." I scanned the room. Not a single person there had been present during the confrontation. "I'd like to hear from the witnesses," I said. Pamela slid a paper toward me. "Officer Bolton provided a full statement." Of course he did. His report painted me as unstable, dangerous, a homeowner who'd burst into my own house and threatened a community volunteer. I breathed slowly, controlled. Karen, power thrives when you lose your cool. "Pamela," I said calmly, "show me the HOA bylaw that gives you authority to enter member properties." She shuffled papers. No answer. "What about the board meeting where this was approved?" More paper shuffling, then silence. The vote was quick and rigged. 4-1 to fine me $1,500 for harassment. Only Mrs. Gladys Henderson, the elderly board member with kind eyes, voted against it. I walked out with my jaw tight, but I wasn't alone. Gladys caught up in the parking lot, her sweater buttoned wrong, her voice low. "She's done this before," she whispered. People moved away rather than fight her. A chill washed down my back. This wasn't personal, it was a pattern, and I was officially done being her victim. I didn't walk into that law office the next morning. I marched. A man who's had his home stolen from under him walks different. My chest felt tight, my jaw stiff, my hands shaking just enough to remind me why this fight mattered. Attorney Sarah Monroe didn't waste time. Her office smelled like leather, old books, and coffee strong enough to keep a small town awake. She listened while flipping through the evidence I brought: photos, recordings, forged documents, even screenshots of HOA emails Pamela had sent. When I finished, she leaned back, tapped her pen on her desk, and said, "Eric, this isn't just HOA abuse, this is criminal fraud." Quote, hearing it from a lawyer made every muscle in my body unclench. We built a plan, a real one. Sarah would handle the legal attack. I would handle the digital evidence. And the neighbors, well, they were about to find their voices too. Over the next week, Pamela came at me like a cornered animal. Anonymous complaints, fake code violations, patrol cars slowing outside my driveway. A child services welfare check on my 17-year-old son. That last one? That wasn't intimidation. That was war. But instead of breaking me, it made the entire neighborhood furious. Neighbors started knocking on my door. Some hesitant, some ashamed they hadn't spoken up sooner. One after another, they came in with stories of fines they didn't deserve, citations for rules nobody else had to follow, and emergency fees paid quietly because they were scared. My kitchen table turned into an evidence wall. Papers stacked, highlighters everywhere, phones buzzing with neighbors joining our encrypted group chat. For the first time since moving to Hawthorne Ridge, the community felt like, well, a community. Meanwhile, the digital investigation I ran on Pamela's computer crash was a treasure trove. Deleted emails, fake vendor invoices, bank transfers to a shell company with her initials, and a document titled Premium Property Marketing Plan, where she literally outlined her scheme. Use vacant luxury homes for private showings. Stage them without permission. Photograph them for listings. Charge clients. Collect HOA authority perks. My house was her crown jewel, her showcase property. She'd been bragging about it. The fury in my chest felt like wildfire. By Friday evening, we had a binder thicker than the neighborhood rulebook. And that's when Pam pulled her final card. She tried to burn it all down. The special HOA meeting she called that night was supposed to be her victory lap. Low turnout, scared residents, rushed vote, her usual playbook. But she didn't expect half the neighborhood to show up. The community center buzzed with whispered anger. Folding chairs scraped the floor. The fluorescent lights flickered like they were nervous, too. Pam entered wearing a burgundy blazer, hair perfect, lipstick sharp, her expression smug enough to crack glass. "We're here to discuss an emergency assessment," she began, "due to legal expenses caused by Mr. Reed's harassment." "Point of order," Gladys said loudly, standing so fast her chair toppled. "We're here to remove you from the board." The room erupted in gasps. Pam's smile twitched. "Sit down, Gladys." "No," Gladys said, her voice trembling with decades of swallowed fear. "Not anymore." I stepped forward, laptop under my arm. The room went silent as I connected it to the projector. "Before we vote," I said, "everyone needs to see what Pamela's been doing with our homes." And one by one the videos played. Pam hosting dinner parties in my dining room. Pam giving real estate clients tours of my house. Pam photographing my private documents. Pam laughing about people who were too weak or scared to challenge her. People murmured, shook their heads, covered their mouths. Some cried. Then came the financial records, the fake vendors, the missing HOA funds, the checks written to her shell company. The forged signatures. When the final slide hit the screen, Pamela walking out of my house in my bathrobe holding a bottle of my wine, the room fell into stunned silence. Pamela tried to speak, but no sound came out. Her face drained white, her hands shaking. The vote to remove her from the board wasn't close. 42-0. Even her cousin voted against her. But justice didn't stop there. Because just as Pamela gathered her purse and bolted toward the exit, the doors opened. In walked FBI Special Agent Carla Reyes. Her badge flashed. Her tone was cold steel. "Pamela Kent," she said, stepping forward, "you are under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, identity falsification, and embezzlement." The click of the handcuffs echoed through the room like the final note of a long, ugly song. Neighbors clapped. Some cheered. Linda hugged me so hard she nearly cracked my ribs. Pamela twisted around, eyes wild. "This is your fault, Eric. You destroyed everything." I didn't respond. Her consequences spoke for themselves. Ray Bolton, the officer who helped her, was arrested a week later. The HOA board was dissolved and rebuilt from scratch. Sarah won our civil case with ease. And Hawthorne Ridge finally healed. 6 months later, my house felt like a home again. Tyler relaxed. Neighbors trusted each other. And I somehow ended up as the new treasurer, on a board made of people who actually cared. Our backyard barbecue that summer had over 50 people laughing, talking, and sharing stories. Real community, not the fake image Pamela tried to sell. Kids played soccer on the lawn. The sun dipped low behind the pine trees. The grill hissed and popped with burgers. And for the first time in a long time, I breathed easy. Pam was gone. Her reign was over. But the unity she accidentally created? That stayed forever.